Hey,
Hey,
how are you?
I am okay. How are you?
And you look so festive.
Thank you. I'll try and it's also like holding the wig down. So
Cute. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen and you let me know if you can see it and hear it.
okay.
Okay, you see it? All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let me know if you can hear it.
When I'm too busy to notice,
Yeah.
my hair is first to tell me that I'm retreating.
And I'm wondering
Yeah.
maybe you should do full screen.
Coils cower
Yeah.
closer to scalp.
Is that better?
I scratch
Yeah.
irritation.
Okay.
Fingers turn bloody or black wooled or both.
All right. And let's see. Stop share. All right. And then so I have your bio that you sent in for the conference. Is everything still good with that? It's all
I think so.
and do you want me to like read the bio and then play the video and then you read? How do you
um
want it? What's your order?
I originally had that second, but that could be
Okay.
first.
It's up
That
to you, however you want to do it.
mm, doesn't matter, Nita. Doesn't because I'm like, why did I do that? That could be first. It'll be easier.
The
I'ma
video
just
first.
yeah.
Okay. It'll be like a preview before the main attraction.
It'll give me a second to like get myself together too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, I have my partner yelling out time for me to like help me stay on track.
Okay,
Like, you
nice.
gotta log on. I'm like, thank you.
And
Thank
then
you, Jay.
and then I have like 4 questions that I typed up. Do you want me to tell you now or do you want to be surprised?
Surprise me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So if there are like audience questions, then I'll field those and I might be able to like get in a few of those, but I have like 4 prepared questions for the end. And if nobody asks questions, we'll just talk about those 4. They're pretty like it's nothing scary or complicated.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Can you hear anything in the background?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. I turned off my heating and everything because the fan is
Oh,
usually like, so,
yeah.
okay. We're good.
You'd be cold.
A little bit.
It'll keep you awake.
Yeah. Thank you for hosting. I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. I got that email last night from Jeremy that I had gotten the dates confused when I asked him to host. I asked him to do it on the 10th instead of the 20th. I was like, yeah,
Um,
like you should see my syllabus. I always do stuff like that where I get like the dates.
Same though. I do that. I went through my syllabus to like double check something and caught a typo at the very beginning, and it's like this was after the semester ended, and I'm like,
Nothing. You can't do anything.
it's too
Yeah.
late.
I had like everything like a week off because of fall break. And then I had to like shift everything to be a week later. And I was like, whatever.
Yeah, it's wild out here.
And then we're gonna meet up on Thursday.
Yes.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. I'll text you about that. We can talk about that later.
Okay.
Okay, are you ready to let in the
Yeah.
people? You ready?
Hmm.
Okay, all right. I'll let them in. All right. Okay, just making sure everybody's getting in here. Hello. Welcome to our Kentucky State Poetry Society featured reader reading. We do this monthly. Every other month, we have a featured poet who we invite to come read, and hopefully, hello, new members, old members can be introduced to their work. Today's featured poet is NitaJade. They are our new Kentucky State Poetry Society Vice President for 2023. Oh, I should probably introduce myself. My name is Danny Quintos. I am the current president of the Kentucky State Poetry Society, and I will be hosting this reading. So thank you so much, NitaJade, for joining us, for being the vice president, for being willing to share your beautiful work today. Tonight, I'm talking kind of quietly because my kid is asleep in the next room. So just trying to keep it low key. It's a late night reading. So we're going to get started. I'm going to read NitaJade's bio, and then they request that I play a video. It's a 2-minute video. So long as the screen sharing technology and sound and everything goes well, we'll get to enjoy a short video, and then we'll hear NitaJade read some lovely poems. So let me tell you about NitaJade. Okay, let me get the bio up. Did it disappear? Here it is. Okay. NitaJade, she is a self-proclaimed weirdo hailing from Asheville, North Carolina. They hold a BA in African and African American Studies with a minor in theater from Berea College and an MFA in creative writing poetry from the University of Kentucky. They are currently a visiting assistant professor of English at Centre College for the 2022-2023 academic term. As of this year, they've been named an Appalachian poet, published in Poetry Northwest Winter Spring Edition, and included in the Zora's Den, The Fire Inside Volume 2 anthology. They aspire to embody the combined aesthetics of sloths and narwhals, slarwhals, if you please. They laugh loudly and stubbornly. So we're going to start off, let's see, I got to make sure everybody gets in the room. We're going to start off with a short video that NitaJade sent me, and then we will hear the poems. So bear with me. All right.
When I'm too busy to notice, my hair is first to tell me that I'm retreating. Coils cower closer to scalp. I scratch irritation. Fingers turn bloody or black-wooled or both. Instead, I think of Nana, how chemo stole fistfuls of her bracken curls, so she called up clippers. 15 years later, she put her close shave and gold tooth on display when I trimmed my head a third time, said, "Oh gee, I'm just trying to get like you." I think of Mama, how she whoop her hair and hug it after. Correct relaxer to conditioning treatment. Insists on calling chemicals different, yet both result in locks losing interest. How, when spider webs whisper to her nerves, crocheted stitches snatch follicle from root. She lifted the bloody fleece, inspected damage, raised brows shifted to show the child. I offered tea tree and jojoba, reassurance pressed in oil. I think back to a bottom shelf, bookless, filled with my body, toddler, running thick fingers through that good hair, scissors, a beaten.
Okay. Thank you, NitaJade. And so now I'm going to do my best to pin NitaJade so that we see, let's see. Can I do it? Yeah. Spotlight for everyone. All right. And let's listen to NitaJade's beautiful work. Thank you.
Hey y'all, thank you Danny for introducing and playing the video. My name is NitaJade. I am an incredibly awkward human being. I got lights on my head and they may or may not fall, so we're gonna see. But thank y'all for joining and for hosting space with me. If you see me look over into, thank you, Roberta. If you see me look over into my right, it's because I'm reading from my set list. I'm old fashioned. I have to print things out and hold them. Sorry, trees. Um, and if my Wi-Fi goes out, just like cross your fingers and send me good energy that it'll cut back on. Okay, so I am reading tonight to honor the women in my family, mainly the women who raised me or ushered me into the world, both living and on the ancestral plane. I'd like to give overall content warnings for grief and loss, allusions to violence, including assault and corporal punishment, and how mental illness and violence can manifest in Black hair, which was shown in the first video. Lastly, I want to dedicate this reading to all of my late grandmothers, and especially my late OG queen and the glory hallelujah of her last breath. Don't blink, she'll run a Boston on you. This next poem is called Delay. For every one reported, 15 took it from me are stifled into quiet, and every quiet settles into my family. Elders determine getting took another curse, genetic, like our voices and cancers and sweet blood, speculative results of raising tookers ourselves. Mama warned me not to get tooken from, same way I imagine Nana warned her, same way I imagine Ma warned her. Underneath the tooken ghosts of holy books, sawed-off shotguns, lost wars and chokeholds, all of which succeeded yet failed to kill. When word of surviving my first took reached the Blue Ridge Mountains, Mama and Nana wept, quiet in the shelter of each other. Tears leapt off uplifted cheeks. This word, after all, is blessing. The took it from me did not leave my womb anchored in malignant growth. Surely the gifted delay of another tooken child, marked. This next poem is called If You Knew to Become Other. It is dedicated to Grandma Marion and Twin. Thank you, my partner just gave me tea. If you knew to become other, you'd see her sunken, lips reaching for teeth long ghosted, for tongue, throat, speech trembling to voice a haint. Is that you, baby? If you knew something you know to play along, bite tongue back, resist urge to correct, you'd say, yes, I'm here. To see you, my fist crack the jaws of time and space, you'd say, you gave me this face. Sun-baked, tea-dipped, Biscoff brown, eyes shining bright like yours. You'd be the best damn actress this side of the Blue Ridge. You call upon your late grandmother, Twin. Picture breath before shudder. Emanate her fingers on the rose, her dimpled half smirk. You'd embody Polaroid, become awe-inspiring performance, touching, truly, moving enough to unfurl her organs, perhaps. You'd be supernatural. You'd dumbfound the wise. You'd spook the corners, emerge angels to question how Marilyn managed to slip back amongst the miserable. You'd lift a cup once ice full, now ice unbecoming. You'd cool liquid into jaw-slacked mouth, slake her thirst one sponge kiss at a time. You'd touch water, make it holy, heal her, unbreak hearts, look death angels in their eyes and say, we've done this dance before. This next poem is called Between 11:46 and a New Day. My maternal grandmother passed a little over a year ago due to COVID complications. And I wrote a lot to process, and now I'm writing and reading to celebrate her memory. So this is one of the first poems I wrote I believe the night that she passed, between 11:46 and a new day. Brothers screamed a serrated knife through night. His shrieks tore sky. I heard him. Chords stretched Blue Ridge to bluegrass, hurried midnight's pace to bring her back. Sister's words swelled till she heaved, whispered all our dreams had warned. She coded, they trying, they say they trying. They cracked her ribs to bring her back. Mother, in her silent siren voice, hushed urgent instruction. Don't get upset. Tell her you love her. So I did. Told her of my endless love to bring her back. Yet, once the bells tolled, us all clumped into clods of flesh, crawling towards an empty casket. Oh, that's good. All right. This next poem is called Clairaudience. The summer of 2021, I was invited to the Millhouse Retreat in Virginia. And it's this beautiful retreat. Artists, mainly poets, are invited to come out and connect with nature, stay in this beautiful, beautiful house and write. And that was one of the first opportunities that I had to like go somewhere else and write. But in this house, I encountered spirits. I don't know if y'all are like woo woo or believe in that, but I do. And I more so believe in like ancestral spirits, right? So I was in this house. At the time, the owner's son had went out into the forest, and he told me before he left, I will be back in like 3 hours. Like he was just going to go hike. The other fellow hadn't arrived yet, so it was me alone in this big house. And I hear slammed doors, I hear footsteps above me, and and I feel things. And I had so many weird dreams while I was there. So if you ask me, and apparently some other people who stayed there, they encountered spirits as well. So anyways, I ended up writing about hearing and seeing and dreaming ancestrally. Even if there are ancestors that maybe they like connected with my ancestors, maybe they weren't necessarily in my bloodline, but there was still a connection there. So this next poem is a result of that. It's called Clairaudience. We are called regardless of if we listen or respond or don't pick up, the incoming shout still reaches us. We are called every time our ears ring, our ancestors trying to get through. We might as well mind our manners, face the air, speak back to where we are called. We are called wonderful, called wondrous, called gifted, called great. We are called when the incense exhales. We are called over cups of tea. We are called elbow deep in blackberries. We are called mid-cobbler. We are called midday, mid-evening, midnight, 3 a.m., or mere moments before the dew. We are called at the table end of dreams. We are called shoulders shaken out of sleep. We are called awake. We are called soaked up in the shower. We are called showers. We are called by thunder. We are called to rain. We are called mid-drop. We are called mid-step, mid-stride, mid-stroke. We are called wrapped in oil-anointed skin. We are called mid-fantasy, mid-climax. We are called hopeless, called romantic, called insane. In the forest, we are called back, told not to wander past the wind chimes, and we take heed. We are called by our nicknames, and when called by our full names, we are sent for. And when called by our forenames, called by each of our 11 syllables, we are sounded out, we are summoned, we are present in earnest, we are here in exhausted huff, we respond with exalted, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Now, how may we be of service? This next poem is called Slow Down with That Oven Girl, and it is written for my OG queen who passed last year, and It was actually written months before she passed. So I would call on her, literally pick up the phone and call her whenever I needed advice with cooking or a recipe or something. And she gave us hints, but she never gave out full recipes. She was kind of secret like that. But I think it's because she wanted us to learn. So I would call really just to hear her voice. And as I was cooking, even if she wasn't on the phone, I would call up her spirit. So I just, looking back on it, I think that that was a way to prepare myself, that I got to call on her while she was alive, summon her spirit while she was alive, and then do the same thing after death. So this poem is called Slow Down with That Oven Girl. Drowning out noise sound like calling OG Queen, asking for instruction I know she won't give, asking just to hear her voice light up with knowing. She insists I made this dish recently, mistaking 1 week for 2 winters ago, but we glaze past time. She lists ingredients I already bought and omits specifics. Expecting is tradition. We learn braiding by being beneath hands, learn cooking by tasting alone. It'd be disrespect to say we autodidactic, so I say we self-made. She gave me her blessing, call and tell her how it turned out. Drowning out noise echo like innovation. Boil pasta with no pot to piss in, find ways around poor folk flashbacks, make do with kettle and pan, improvise, coat miscalculations in Colby Jack, turn oven fan on high, rattle elbows, sing gospel, two-step to a kitchen choir concert. Out my mouth, I hear OG Queen laugh. Giddy cackles only come when we own to something. She guide me. I go with her. I bake it better than my worst case scenario. I remove what's always fed me from what's always burned me. Spoon all my body will reject into now and later. When she tastes, I recognize why OG's shoulders get going. It's a celebration. Every misstep baked upright calls for a shimmy. My grandma did a little dance whenever she tasted something. That's how you know it was good, and it was always good. This next poem is called Scatter My Bones. Don't y'all cry over me. I was a good woman. Celebrate me. OG Queen. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. Lucille Clifton. It turns out the ash ain't ash at all, but bone burned clean. All remnants of life give in to the flame, but the marrow, the remnants blessed, are pleasant pyre purge. 67 years of thick skin levitating, flesh and bone giving in while standing up to the fire. Our brilliant matriarch found her loophole. This next poem was written again way before she passed. But my grandma had never been to the ocean, but like within her last year before she even got sick, she visited the ocean for the first time. And it kind of blew my mind, and it blew my sister's mind that, you know, that was her first time. It was kind of a privileged realization on our ends. It's not like we frequent the beach a whole bunch, but we had been familiar with it at least once in our lives, and realized that our grandma was had been on this earth for almost 7 decades and had never had that experience. So I wrote this poem after having a conversation with my sister after my grandma was introduced to the ocean, or the ocean was introduced to her. The poem is called Introducing the Ocean to Nana. This, our palms flatten horizons, is where we find heaven, hell, healing, answers, questions, wounds. This, our palms scoop waves, is brine that dragged us here or wrapped our lungs in mercy. This, our palms embrace, press salt away. This is how we head home. I have one more poem left. I feel like I kind of sped through those. When I timed them early, it was around 20 minutes. So I hope I'm doing that. This last poem is called Freedom Interlude for OG. It is written after an artist named No Name. And I'm going to link the song in the chat in case anyone wants to listen to it before or after the poem. But my grandma used to dance. And a part of grieving and healing after her passing was remembering ways to celebrate her and remembering to like be goofy and dance or praise through dancing. I often honor her memory through dancing or get the two-step going. So this final poem is dedicated to her, and then we will take questions. Freedom Interlude for OG. Don't ever let them see you down and broke. OG Queen. You breathed for me today. I thought of you all dressed to the nines, gold tooth flashing, smooth as ever, and how, before the stolen breaths, you insisted on adjusting your will, exchanged a mud-stuck body for a furnace-cleansed skeleton. The whole stock of you put up a final fight, a last lick. I carried you with me, and when the levee burst, I remembered your invitation to call up the good of you. Swallow air, sing and dance a freedom interlude. Dance with me, 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 dance with me. Y'all know I'm free. Dance for me, y'all know I'm free. Thank y'all.
NitaJade, I know you can't hear the virtual applause. One disadvantage of virtual reading, but I think everybody is like at home clapping in our individual rooms. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all.
So if anybody has questions, put them in the chat. I have a few questions for NitaJade. So my first one, knowing that you are a newer Kentuckian, we're going to claim you as a Kentuckian, even though you've only been here for a few years, but a North Carolina native. Have you noticed any more like Kentucky showing up in your work since you moved here? Or do you feel like there's more North Carolina as you might recognize the things and places you miss about home?
Thank you. Yes, to Kentucky skies. So I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't have any theories. I'm not a scientist, but I do know that Kentucky sunsets and sunrises are absolutely stunning. And that has caused me to write more about them, to incorporate that into my work. But North Carolina's Blue Ridge Mountains always sneaks back in. It's just I breathe easier when I like go back to North Carolina because I'm like surrounded by these very, if you're not from the area, like they can be intimidating. I do know people who have panic going through the gorge, or through the Cumberland Gap, excuse me. So Blue Ridge Mountains finds a way into my work. Kentucky skies also find a way into my work. But also since I've been in Kentucky, I find myself like paying more attention to wildlife, like both dead and alive. And that could just be the nature of the loss that I've experienced since I've been in Kentucky, because it's I came here to go to Berea in 2015, went back home briefly and came back for grad school at UK. So a lot of my familial losses I experienced in Kentucky and had to go back home. So I think that has to do with why I'm paying so much attention to like birds and roadkill. And like I have so many pictures of like dead birds and dead animals. And this is, I told you I was weird. So I'm I'm trying to find a meaning behind all of it. Like I think it has to mean something. I'm just trying to figure it out. Because not every instance of roadkill like makes me, not every single one makes me pull over and take a picture. But I have, like my partner was driving the car to an event with me, and I remembered every time I commuted to work in Danville, there was this like beautiful dead thing on the side of the road that I never had time to stop for because I was always on my way to work. So this event was in the evening. He was driving and I'm like, we have to find it. We have to find it. Like, and as soon as he finds it, I'm like, pull over right here. And if anyone was driving like to Danville from Nicholasville, they saw this interesting person getting out the car, scooting down the side of the road and booties and taking a picture of this dead, I think it was a coyote. But this, it was haunting. Like how, and I haven't done anything with it. I haven't done anything with all the dead animals and dead squirrels and butterfly wings and just random things in my phone. But yeah, Kentucky has made me pay more attention to both dead and alive wildlife for whatever reason.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that that's specifically weird. I feel like that's very like characteristic of a poet, right? Like you're not the first poet to write about dead things on the side of the road or birds or being haunted by like these images, right? Like, yeah, I love it.
We're collectively weird.
Yeah, and you never know when like something that strikes you is gonna spark a poem or you're gonna use it later for something. Yeah. Okay. My next question, whose work do you love to teach and who are the poets you turn to when you want to feel inspired?
Two-part question. All right. Whose work do I love to teach? I love teaching Patricia Smith and I love teaching Danette Smith. Not just because the last names are Smith. That was just a coincidence. But Patricia Smith is like, to me, one of the OG poets that exemplified that you can be on the stage as well as be on the page. Like there's no differentiation between the quality of work between the two. And growing up as a slam poet, I was taught that, at least by higher collegiate poets, that slam poetry wasn't a genre, that one was inferior to the other. And then I was like raised to compete. So I was always writing for 3 minutes and 30 seconds to be on the stage. So Patricia Smith like marries the two brilliantly. I just taught Blood Dazzler this past semester, and it's probably my favorite book to teach. And also she's coming to Center in January, just putting that out there. Yeah, I'm really excited.
More info about that. Yeah.
And Danette Smith, because they are, for similar reasons, they are a more contemporary poet. They're not afraid to make poets uncomfortable and the audience uncomfortable. Their readings do something else to their work. Like they have the collection of works themselves, which is great. But when they read the same poem across different audiences, something changes. Like the delivery changes, maybe sections of the poetry changes. And I love teaching how you can give poems more than one life. Like you can have it live on the page and you could take it off the page and do something completely different and it still have the same origin. So I love teaching both of them. I turn to Glennis Redmond for inspiration, Crystal Wilkinson for inspiration, Nikki Giovanni and Nikki Finney. Those are a few. I will stop there.
But. Yeah, I know you could just go on and on.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you said Danez Smith and Patricia Smith, I was like, those are two very like theatrical poets, like that their performances give their work so much more dimension than just like reading them on the page. Absolutely. Yeah. And Danez Smith is such an entertainer. I've seen them perform in person when I went to AWP, like maybe like 2015. And it was just like the whole room was just like so captivated. It was like a movie, like the one poem, you know, like
yeah.
It was, yeah. Yeah, and I love those recs. If you wouldn't mind, will you put some of those names in the chat too, so that people can expand their poetry, their poets to be inspired by. If you don't know these poets, you know, thank you, NitaJade.
Gotcha.
And then this question I came up with as you were reading. So it's like I think it's fully baked, but let me see if it makes sense. So you have like so many family members and their voices in your work. So my question, and especially after your story about like the spirits and the in the house you stayed in. So my question is, how do you conjure or commune with their voices and stay true to them in your work? And do you have a specific process for the ones who are no longer in their earthly bodies?
Just a little bit about the house, because like nobody else believed me. Like, thank you. I was also the only like Black person or person of color on the property at the time. So I'm like, are there specific spirits talking to me? There was this one painting of what looked like an indigenous African person. And it was a child, and it was an AFAB child. So, or at least appearing to be so. It was kind of like the Mona Lisa where they stared. Like every time I walked through this library, I felt this painting, like just looking at me. And I'm like, what? Did you want to be in this house? Like, did somebody put you? So I will talk to things. And this might be something to go over in therapy, but we'll get there. But I will talk to objects. I will talk to my ancestors. When I cook, that's how I connect to my grandma. If I'm like, I don't know what to do, Grandma, what would you do? And I really try to like let her lead me, whether it's a thought that pops up or an idea to like keep putting seasoning in something. Like I will try to get outside of myself and get outside of my own head and outside of my ego and like actually pull on something else. I try to think of it as this isn't necessarily religious, because I'm not like a religious person, but I did come up in a religious background. So I think of it as whenever I was raised to pray, it was an act of almost desperateness. So whenever I call out to my ancestors, it's almost like a giving something up, like, hey, I really don't know what to do. Like, I really need some help. Or this person's getting on my nerves and I'm trying not to cuss them out. So like, how would you navigate this? Like, I feel like it's a desperate act, but also like a sacred act in that I'm really being vulnerable and talking to my altar or exchanging thoughts or exchanging dialogue out loud with someone who physically isn't there. Again, I believe in spirits. I believe like ancestors exist on an ancestral plane and they can commune with us. My grandma pops up in my dreams so many times and I'm like, what are you saying to me? Just making cameos. I'm not going to get into my dreams. That's a whole different conversation. But yeah, that's I think that was a long-winded answer to your question.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I think that it that kind of leads into this question that Bill Verbal asked in the chat. So He says, with your slam poetry background, do you write more out loud or on the page? So again, like a process question, thinking about what, because you're talking about asking these questions out loud too, and when kind of conjuring these voices.
So I actually, I record things on my phone. Like if it's something that I'm like, I need to say this out loud right now. Like if I'll wake up and from like a dream where my grandma visited me, and I'll record that immediately. If it's like a really aggressive idea, I don't think it's just an idea. I think somebody's trying to tell me something. So I'll record that out loud. Sometimes they stay as voice memos. Sometimes they become remixed videos, like the first poem that was played. I felt that poem does exist on the page, but I felt like it needed to be audio and more of an audio and visual experience. So this sounds kind of woo-woo, but I want the poem to tell me what it wants to do. It's like I can craft a poem and I'm like, this is purely visual. Like there are several poems that I didn't read tonight because they exist on the page. They're formatted to be experienced visually. Like some of them have borders, some of them are like, you kind of like match up how you want to read the poem. So that's like purely visual to me. And then some poems, I'm like, you can exist on the page or out loud. I don't think I've ever written, at least after my slam poetry life, let me say that. I don't think I've ever sat down to write specifically for performance. I think I've written with the goal of it being like published or in a manuscript or like on the page in some way. And if that poem wants to stay on the page, then I let it be. And if that poem wants to be read out loud, then I'll put it in a set list for a reading like tonight.
Okay, I have one final question, and I like don't want to. Well, okay, so here's my question, and I'm not trying to like no shade to either Kentucky or North Carolina, but my question is, what is the one thing that Kentucky has on North Carolina, and what is the one thing that North Carolina has on Kentucky?
Kentucky has the love of my life. I would not have met him if I hadn't have ended up in Kentucky and become an honorary Kentuckian. And North Carolina has my queen mother and the Blue Ridge Mountains, but mostly my queen mother and my last grandma. And I would not trade them for the world. So yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love that it's people. It's not like, I mean, the mountains too, but yeah, that's that's great. All right. So thank you so much, NitaJade, for sharing your work, for staying up for this late night virtual reading, for being the vice president of KSPS. We're so lucky to have you. I'm so excited for all the work that we're gonna do together. Yeah. And so I hope you all have a great night. Look up the poets that NitaJade put in the chat. Listen to the music video that they put in the chat, and yeah, read more poetry.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank y'all.